Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the structure and the hidden translation nuances of a true literary masterpiece, Psalm 23 by David. Now I know most of us are incredibly familiar with these ancient words, but today we aren't just going to read them, we're going to completely deconstruct them. By looking at the English Standard Version and, specifically highlighting its literal Hebrew footnotes, we're going to uncover this dynamic, visual journey that's hidden right beneath the surface of the text. So let's get right into it.
Okay, let's jump straight into this iconic opening line, which immediately anchors us in this really profound metaphor of absolute guidance and provision. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It sets the entire stage for our journey, right? This is a bold declaration that the speaker lacks absolutely nothing. And it's not because they've hoarded resources, but entirely because of the identity of the one leading them. So, to start unpacking exactly how this leadership plays out, we're going to look at the first 3 verses and map out the incredible, literal and metaphorical journey this text actually takes us on.
Section 1. The Shepherd's Provision, Navigating the Open Fields.
As you can see, this brilliantly illustrates the dynamic geographical progression of the poem. We aren't just sitting in one place. The journey starts high and bright in green pastures, then moves beside the waters, descends sharply into a dark valley, transitions suddenly to a prepared table, and finally arrives at the house of the Lord. It's actively moving us from bright, open fields down into imminent danger and finally to this ultimate indoor sanctuary.
Now, what's really interesting here is how the translator's lens kind of shifts the focus. In the standard English text, we read still waters, which naturally makes us picture this calm, glassy pond. But if we look at the literal Hebrew footnote, it reads beside waters of rest. This subtle shift completely changes the focus from the physical calmness of the water itself to the profound active rest that is granted to the traveler. The environment isn't just scenic, it actually provides deep restoration for the soul.
Let's move to the next verse and see how this builds. We traditionally read paths of righteousness, which sounds deeply moral, right? Maybe even a bit abstract or strictly spiritual. But the Hebrew footnote grounds this by translating it as right paths. This alternate reading grounds that moral idea of righteousness into the very literal, physical, right paths a shepherd has to navigate to keep the flock from, literally, falling off a cliff. The spiritual guidance is deeply, deeply intertwined with a highly practical physical journey. And following those right paths eventually leads the traveler downward, bringing us to a drastic shift in our narrative arc. The bright fields disappear, and we arrive at our next stop.
Section 2. The Darkest Valley. A shift in tone and terrain.
An absolutely crucial point is found in this translation nuance. We all know the incredibly famous phrase, the Valley of the Shadow of Death. But check this out. The alternative footnote reveals the Valley of Deep Darkness. This is fascinating because it means this valley doesn't solely represent the literal end of life. It can also be understood as an enveloping, terrifying deep darkness. Basically, any profound hardship or peril where the traveler's fear is intensely tested and challenged.
But even in the darkest moments of the journey, the source text anchors us with these tangible tools of protection and guidance that provide vital comfort. The shepherd carries a rod and a staff, and these aren't just props. They are active instruments used to fend off predators and guide the sheep. Notice the shift in language here too. The text stops talking about the shepherd and speaks directly to him, assuring presence with the words, "You are with me." And that brings us to a brilliant structural pivot in verse 5, where the entire metaphorical landscape changes completely.
Section 3. The Gracious Host. The Metaphorical Pivot. Up until this point, we've been outdoors, but suddenly we encounter the host metaphor. This is a striking literary shift from an outdoor shepherd leading a flock to an indoor protector providing honor, food, and ultimate safety. We're literally leaving the wilderness behind here. The protector is no longer a shepherd out in the rough fields, but a gracious host welcoming an honored guest indoors.
You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies? I mean, talk about the ultimate power move. Imagine the incredible tension, but also the absolute safety in this scene. A lavish banquet is calmly and meticulously prepared right in the midst of the traveler's adversaries. The host is just so utterly powerful and completely in control that the guests can sit down and eat a meal peacefully, entirely undisturbed by the surrounding danger.
And the host's provisions are overwhelmingly generous. Look at what is given to the traveler. A fully prepared table, a head anointed with oil, which, in ancient times was a profound sign of honor and hospitality, and a cup that literally overflows. This fundamentally transitions our journey from mere survival in that dark valley to an experience of overflowing abundance and high honor. And finally, in verse 6, we arrive at the culmination of our textual journey.
Section 4. A house forever, arriving at the ultimate destination.
Looking at the footnotes again, the Hebrew text offers a stunning alternative to our English assumptions. Instead of the confident assumption, surely goodness and mercy, the footnote suggests an exclusive promise, only goodness and mercy. Now, surely is confident, sure, but only is an absolute guarantee that only goodness will pursue the traveler, leaving literally no room for anything else to track them down.
This illustrates a much deeper emotional core, too. We often think of mercy as simply, not getting a punishment we deserve. But the Hebrew translates from a much richer concept: deep, unwavering, steadfast love actively pursuing the traveler all the days of their life.
Then we get to the final resolution. Instead of merely saying, I shall dwell in the house of the Lord, another incredible footnote adds a critical word: I shall return to dwell. Notice how this single word reveals a beautiful cyclical completion to our journey arc. The traveler isn't just arriving at a brand new unfamiliar location. They shall return to dwell in their true home. The journey brings them full circle back to exactly where they belong. So, to wrap up our explainer today, I'll leave you with this provocative final translation nuance to ponder as you reflect on this masterful literary journey. The standard verse ends with the sweeping word forever, but the literal Hebrew translates this as for length of days. If we view this not just as a leap into some abstract eternity, but as an ongoing, day-by-day progression, well, how does knowing this ongoing, daily perspective change your relationship with this ancient text? Think about that as you go about the length of your days. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.